The name of this chapter is Work on the Hearts and Minds of Others. Coercion creates a reaction that will eventually work against you. You must seduce others into wanting to move in your direction. A person you have seduced becomes your loyal worker. And the way to seduce others is to operate on their individual psychologies and weaknesses. Soften up the resistance by working on their emotions, playing on what they hold dear and what they fear. Ignore the hearts and minds of others, and they will grow to hate you. Okay? What this means is, it doesn't matter if you become a salesman or what. If you're a boss, leader, when you're involved with others, you cannot ignore their needs and their wants. Okay? You have to seduce. To seduce someone means not to make them do it. It means to get them to want to do something themselves. Okay? Very difficult. Trust me, very difficult. Your dad's in sales. I don't want you to be in sales. I want you to be someone important like a president or a general in the army, or you could be a doctor. Now, people think that the doctor has nothing to do with relating to others, and it's true that you'll make a lot of money as a doctor, but in order to be a good doctor, you have to lead others. The head doctors are in charge of hospitals or in charge of other people. Okay, so you can't you can't ignore. For example, you don't want to have a bad bed manner. If you have a bad bed manner and you're a doctor, and someone else has a good bed manner and they're a doctor, they're always going to be in a position above you. They'll make more money than you. You cannot ignore other people's feelings. You always have to pay attention to them. Okay, and just be sensitive to other people's concerns. Okay, I'm about to read an example of someone who broke the law, transgression of the law. Now, near the end of the reign of Louis XV, all of France seemed desperate for change. When the king's grandson and chosen successor, the future Louis XIV, married the 15-year-old daughter of the Empress of Austria, the French caught a glimpse of the future that seemed hopeful. The young bride, Marie Antoinette, was beautiful and full of life. She instantly changed the mood of the court, which was rank with Louis XV's debaucheries. Even the common people, who had yet to see her, talked excitedly of Marie Antoinette. The French had grown disgusted with the series of mistresses who had dominated Louis XV, and they looked forward to serving their new queen. In 1773, when Marie Antoinette publicly rode through the streets of Paris for the first time, applauding crowds swarmed around her carriage. How fortunate, she wrote her mother, to be in a position in which one can gain widespread affection at so little cost. In 1774, Louis XV died, and Louis XVI took the throne. As soon as Marie Antoinette became queen, she abandoned herself to the pleasures she loved the most, ordering and wearing the most expensive gowns and jewelry in the realm, sporting the most elaborate hair in history, her sculpted coiffures rising as much as 3 feet above her head, and throwing a constant succession of masked balls and fetes. All of these whims she paid for on credit, never concerning herself with the cost or who paid the bills. Marie Antoinette's greatest pleasure was the creation and designing of a private Garden of Eden at the Petit Trianon, a chateau on the grounds of Versailles with its own woods. The gardens and the Petit Trianon were to be as natural as possible, including moss applied by hand to the trees and rocks. To heighten the pastoral effect, the queen employed peasant milkmaids to milk the finest looking cows in the realm, launderers and cheesemaids to milk the finest, and cheesemakers in special peasant outfits she helped design, shepherds to tend sheep with silk ribbons around their necks. When she inspected the barns, she would watch her milkmaids squeezing milk into porcelain vases made at the Royal Ceramic Works. To pass the time, Marie Antoinette would gather flowers in the woods around the Petit Trianon, or watch her good peasants doing their chores. The place became a separate world, its community limited to her chosen favorites. With each new whim, the cost of maintaining the Petit Trianon soared. Meanwhile, France itself was deteriorating. There was famine and widespread discontent. Even socially insulated courtiers seethed with resentment. The queen treated them like children. Only her favorites mattered, and these were becoming fewer and fewer. But Marie Antoinette did not concern herself with this. Not once throughout her reign did she read a minister's report. Not once did she tour the provinces and rally the people to her side. Not once did she mingle among the Parisians or receive a delegation from them. She did none of these things because as queen she felt the people owed her their affection, and she was not required to love them in return. In 1784, the queen became embroiled in a scandal. As part of an elaborate swindle, the most expensive diamond necklace in Europe had been purchased under her name, and during the swindler's trial, her lavish lifestyle became public. People heard about the money she spent on jewels and dresses and masked dances. They gave her the nickname Madame Deficit, and from then on she became the focus of the people's growing resentment. When she appeared in her box at the opera, the audience greeted her with hisses. Even the court turned against her. For while she had been running up her huge expenditures, the country was headed for ruin. 5 years later, in 1789, an unprecedented event took place, the beginning of the French Revolution. The queen did not worry. Let the people have their little rebellion, she seemed to think. It would soon quiet down and she would be able to resume her life with pleasure. That year, the people marched on Versailles, forcing the royal family to quit the palace and take residence in Paris. This was a triumph for the rebels, but it offered the queen an opportunity to heal the wound she had opened and establish contact with the people. The queen, however, had not learned her lesson. Not only would she leave the palace during her stay in Paris, her subjects could rot in hell for all she cared. In 1792, the royal couple was moved from the palace to a prison, as the revolution officially declared the end of the monarchy. The following year, Louis XVI was tried, found guilty, and guillotined. As Marie Antoinette awaited the same fate, hardly a soul came to her defense. Not one of her former friends in the court, not one of Europe's other monarchs, who, as as members of their own country's royal families, had all the reason in the world to show that revolution did not pay. Not even her own family in Austria, including her brother, who now sat on the throne. She had become the world's pariah. In October of 1793, she finally knelt at the guillotine, unrepentant and defiant to the bitter end. From early on interpretation, Marie Antoinette acquired the most dangerous of attitudes. As a young princess in Austria, she was endlessly flattered and cajoled. As the future queen of the French court, she was the center of everyone's attention. She never learned to charm or please other people, to become attuned to their individual psychologies. She never had to work to get her way, to use calculation or cunning or the arts of persuasion. And like everyone who has indulged from an early age, she evolved into a monster of insensitivity. Marie Antoinette became the focus of an entire country's dissatisfaction because it is so infuriating to meet with a person who makes no effort to seduce you or attempt to persuade you, even if only for the purpose of deception. And do not imagine that she represents a bygone era or that she is even rare. Her type is today more common than ever. Such types live in their own bubble. They seem to feel they are born kings and queens and that attention is owed to them. They do not consider anyone else's nature, but bulldoze over people with the self-righteous arrogance of a Marie Antoinette. Pampered and indulged as children, as adults they will become that everything they still believe that everything must come to them. Convinced of their own charm, they make no effort to charm, seduce, or gently persuade. In the realm of power, such attitudes are dangerous. At all times you must attend to those around you, gauging their particular psychology, tailoring your words to what you know will entice and seduce them. This requires energy and art. The higher your station, the greater the need to remain attuned to the hearts and minds of those below you, creating a base of support to maintain you at the pinnacle. Without that base, your power will teeter, and at the slightest change of fortune, those below will gladly assist in your fall from grace. Okay, so what that means is that you can never, ever, ever take for granted someone being nice to you or kind to you or anything like that. You don't want to go around with an attitude, okay? You want to be, you always have to be concerned with what they're doing, what their needs are, okay? And if you do that, then it's going to pay off, just like a politician, like Obama or Kennedy or something.
Yeah, I'm an educator.
Mm-hmm.
That is not something to be said.
I'm reading. You don't know what I'm reading.
I just listened.
No, I'm reading about Marie Antoinette.
Marie Antoinette is high school.
I understand. Right. Well, I hear what you're saying. I'm not questioning you. I'm not questioning you. Well, I'm going to. I hear what you're saying. Okay. Well, I'm going to read what I'm going to read. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your assistance. Okay. Thank you. You see that? Now she got a mother and a father, and I'm always going to be in your corner, always. Okay, but I'm certainly, I'm certainly not going to follow someone else's dictates on how I'm going to raise my son or what I'm going to reach you. Just not going to happen. So there you go. It's you and me, kid. Got that? It's you and me. Okay. I'm in your corner. I'm always going to be there for you. Oh, what did I want to say? I know I wanted to have, what was I going to say? Oh, I wanted to have lessons. Oh, okay. Geez, there's so many. There's so many. There's so many. What you have to do, just like that little incident example, you have to determine what you feel is right, what you feel is appropriate, and what you feel is just, and you have to stick with that. Okay, you have to. You don't want to be someone who goes around kowtowing to what someone else believes or says or does. You just don't. You don't want to go around if someone believes. Okay, for example, let's say that you are. Okay, let's say that you want to. Uh, oh, what's a good example? Good example. Okay, classic. Martin Luther King. Okay, Martin Luther King. He was a leader. Okay, he was at the forefront of the movement. He believed certain things, and that was in the height of the civil rights movement when people were going against. A lot of people, both black and white, didn't want him to do what he was doing. They just didn't. Okay, but he stuck with his guns. Now he could have been a weak person, and the minute someone said, "Oh wait, you're making waves. Don't do that," and then he could have just said, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to take the easy way. I'm going to take the path of least resistance. I'm going to go." I'm going to do what everyone makes everyone happy. Do not. The easiest way to live a failed life and accomplish nothing is to do what makes everyone happy, because even then, you're not going to accomplish anything. Okay? It's just like businesses. The surest way for a business to fail is when you try to make a business that caters to everyone's needs, caters to everyone's whims. Okay? You don't want to do that. You absolutely don't want to do that. Okay, so you want to stick to your guns. You want to be respectful. You probably kind of witnessed that situation. I didn't yell at her. I didn't attack. But I'm certainly not going to, yes, sir, boss. Yes, sir, ma'am. I do's what you says. No, you don't do that. You be a man. You stick to your guns. You do what you think is right, and you proceed. And that's the best way. Well, to be successful in life, to be a man, to be an adult. And that's what you want to do. Okay? So, just wanted to give you a personal little example of that. What else was I going to say? I think I had Oh, didn't I do already do that? I wasn't sure. Oh, so we're gonna go into it this way. Because a lot of time when I was with my dad, there are a lot of things that I wish he had told me, a lot of stories that I wish he had read. You know, my your grandfather was in the Marines. I even put. I don't think I have it there. He was like in the third Armory Mechanized Division or something. In the Second World War, he was fought with MacArthur in the Pacific, and um, he in the Second World War, which was about totalitarianistic government, the Axis powers, Germany, Italy, and Japan, were trying to take over literally the rest of the world. And in the Pacific theater, that's where the United States fought against um, the Japanese. Okay, and the Japanese, like right after they bombed Pearl Harbor on 1941, December 7th, I mean they had taken over pretty much all of the Pacific. Okay, they were literally in control. But uh, the United States basically, because we're an incredibly resourceful nation with seemingly unlimited resources, and it did take about a year and a half because Americans at that time were pretty isolationist for us to get back into the mix. But they um, it didn't at the time the jur well it took a while to marshal the resources in order to be effective. So at that time, hey baby, what's up?
Yeah, you're reading them.
No, I'm telling him stories from my head. I already read a story. So at that time,
Thought you were on the phone and didn't remember seeing yourself on that stage.
oh yeah, is that where it is? Because I lost it. Thank you. And thank you, baby. So at that time, the Japan was fighting the United States, and for a while they were ahead. But the United States marshaled up the resources and put MacArthur in charge of the Pacific forces in order to fight the Japanese. And your grandfather fought under MacArthur in order to win the war against the Japanese. So he played his role. I mean, it took millions and millions of people. Ultimately, the Japanese were defeated. United States was victorious, and your grandfather was in the Marines during that war, World War II. He just passed away like a little over 2 months ago now. I miss him a great deal. He was awesome, and he even wrote you a letter. He wrote, you can feel proud that he took his time in his last. He literally, he's getting old. When people get old, they die. Unfortunately, and he was 91, and he was really strong, but eventually just his body wore out. But when he was in his last month of his life, he chose to spend his time to write you a letter talking about how much he loved you and how much he wants you to be a really good person and be successful. And I know you will. So it doesn't matter what the obstacles that I have to negotiate or deal with. I am dedicated to spend every waking day of my life being in your corner and doing what I think is in your best interest. Okay? Now I'm gonna tell you the story about your grandfather because he was really both your grandfathers were really great men. I don't know about your maternal grandfather on your mom's side, but I know from your father's side, he was a squared away guy. Okay? And sometimes you have to go out there so you can visit him or you can see little snippets of videos so you can get an example of what he's like. But in any case, there are a lot of stories I wish that he had told me, which I didn't think to ask him because I thought I was going to be around. He was going to be around forever for me to do it. And then at a certain point, he passed away, and it was too late. But I don't want that to happen with you and me. So anything story I can think of that I think is noteworthy or that you can learn the lesson from, I'm going to tell you because I want you to be safe. Okay, and I want you to learn from my example, and just I want you to be aware of certain things that went on in my life. I think that's important. Be aware of what happened with your parents and your grandparents and your great grandparents if possible. Okay? And then next time I'll tell you a story about how your mom and I met in a Starbucks and she seduced me and I tried to go away but I didn't have the power to resist her feminine wiles.
You record?
Yeah, of course. I record everything. What? What? Huh? Oh, you know exactly what. We know what happened. Don't even try it. Oh my God, I was powerless. You know, when someone says like a moth to a flame, you know what that means? That means that the flame is just so luminescent, it's so bright, so colorful, just so absolutely blindingly brilliant that the moth, it's like it's wired into its brain. It goes, ooh, look at the light. It's like they're hypnotized. They have no control of their wings, their body. How could they? So they just gradually get closer and closer to the flame, and then all of a sudden, the flame burns them up, and then they fall. Now I can't say your mom is a flame in the sense that she burns me up and I fall, but I can say that she has the power just like that flame. It's just so luminescent, it's so brilliant, blinding, all the colors dazzle. It just wires into your brain and your whole brain turns to mush. They're like hypnotized. You got even no power, even though something you're like, oh wait, was that maybe in my best interest? It doesn't matter because all you can focus on is the blinding light. It's like put chains on your brain. That's the power your mama has. I'm telling you, you gotta watch out for those women who seduce you like that.
I just listening and to watch out for not
be wary.
Not find a woman like your mother.
No, 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 no. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it at all. Your mother is an awesome woman. I am fortunate. In fact, you wouldn't be here who you are today without your mom. All I'm saying is that you want to watch out for women who aren't good and awesome like your mother, but still have the power to seduce. Because that doesn't make sense. It makes sense. You want because listen, someone might have the power to seduce you, but they might not have a truly good core like your mother. That person you got to watch out for. Not your mom. You'd be lucky enough to find a woman like your mother. But those other women who are kind of like her with the power but don't have the goodness, those women you have to watch out for. You understand, little baby? Now, how's that? That's a pretty accurate rendition, I think.
You cleaned it up.
I cleaned it up. That's the way it is. What are you talking about? What are the other thing that I want to say off the top of my head? I'm thinking. See, that's why I like to write stuff down in bullet notes because I've forgotten all the stuff that I wanted to say. Oh, when I was in college, there was an award ceremony, and I think this was my second year of college, and it was in 1988. I was going to University of Nevada, Reno, and I think I was on the dean's list. I had like a 3.56, which that's not a good acceptable GPA for you, and it really wasn't for me. But I didn't have anyone to tell me that that was unacceptable. You don't want to get a 3.55, but that's what I had at that point. But in any case, you want to get at least a 3.8. 4.0 would be better, but at least 3.0. But in any case, had like the highest GPA of any black student at University of Nevada, Reno, which is another sadness. But at the time, so they give you an award for that. So I got an award. I think my mom has it for being the most outstanding black student, yada yada something on campus. And it was at Harris Casino in Reno at some official function. and Sammy Davis Jr. came there, and he spoke before. He didn't actually give me the award, but he spoke right before me. He introduced me, so I guess I kind of met him. That's kind of cool. And I had drove a cab, and I had Pauly Shore in my cab. Jesus! Now you talk about getting close to greatness. I was just joking. Not about Pauly Shore. I did have him in my cab, but I don't know if I call him close to greatness. It is still kind of a funny story. What other funny story did I have? Uh, I guess that's it. I won't tell you about. I train for marathons and run marathons all the time. So there you go. You're destined to be an awesome athlete just like your father. But I remember one day I was running on the outskirts of town and I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the run and I used a motorcycle helmet. I won't get into details about that, but that wasn't all that much fun. But I persevered. I guess that's about it. In the future, I'm going to have to write the stories down so I won't forget them. Well, at least there you go. Now, I never would have brought that up. That's something I bet you my dad has cool stories like that. But I don't know because I didn't get a chance to talk to him about it. While I'm here, my dad did tell me of a story about this is in the Second World War, and he had his body. Okay, your father or your grandfather obviously was black. So in the Second World War, this is like in 1941, 42, they didn't want black people to get medals and awards. Okay, so what they did was, uh, they just stuck them in the back. Different theaters of war. It was a problem because at that point they had the Red Tails, and that was a famous black squadron of pilots. They were fighting in Europe. Okay, but again, your grandfather, my father, was fighting in the Pacific. So, and it took forever to let those pilots in the Europe fight. Same thing was happening in a different way over in the Pacific theater. Okay, they didn't want the black people to get medals or be recognized for bravery and courage and all those things. So they relegated them to a secondary role, and that was to pick up bodies of all those white people who were storming the beaches trying to root out the Japanese who were on each of those islands. They, the black people stayed in the back safe while all those white people were gunned down with the machine guns and died. So then, after they were all gone, dead, the black people, like your grandfather, would go up, drag the bodies to the ship, and store them. Because you can't just leave the bodies there. And that's probably a good thing. That's why your grandfather lived long enough to to father me and be your grandfather. You wouldn't be here if he was killed then. So, in any case, so he said he was in the process of picking up bodies one day, and he ran into two Japanese soldiers, and he took them. He pulled out his gun and took. Apparently he was the only one there, so he pulled out his rifle and took control of them, captured them, and he was walking back to the not the mainland, but walking back to his ship where all the other Marines were, and then he said he stopped and put his rifle down. He was crazy. I don't know what his problem was. And then he said, "Show me some of that kung fu stuff you guys know." Choo choo choo. And he was doing these fake kung fu moves. Bruce Lee movies weren't even around in 1942, so I don't even know what movies he was copying off of. But he did that, and fortunately, he wasn't punished for being crazy and stupid. So they didn't take him out and kill him for being that way. It just so happened, I don't know, they were tired of fighting or whatever, so they they let him pick up his gun again, and then they still followed him back to the ship. But that's a cool story. That's probably the only war story I know of from my dad. He's told me that a couple of times. I was in the army, but I don't have any war stories. I got a story of a bear chasing me, but I'm not even going to go into that. Now, that was kind of being stupid more than protecting anybody. So that's it. Mostly I just went to training. So, Mr. Elijah, that's today's story. It is the 27th. 27th. It's the 27th of October of 2013. Oh my God, it's Sunday. You are 6 weeks old today. You are 6 weeks old. Congratulations. I wish you were eating. If you were eating already, I'd have got you a cupcake or something. Sorry, I couldn't do that. Or I would, but you're not eating, so it wouldn't matter.
You could have got a cupcake and then I would have eaten it and then it would have digested onto breast milk and then it would have tasted.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. Well, see, there you go. There you go. Maybe I might go to the store and get some. We're gonna feed you cupcake breast milk. Oh God, I hadn't thought of that. Well, we could certainly do that. Okay. So I guess that's about it. I'm gonna put you down. Uh, I love you, son. Don't worry. I'm always gonna be in your corner, and I don't care what anyone says. I'm gonna read you the stories I want to read you. So whoever else can do whatever they want to. But other than that, you're good to go. Okay? Because you always got me in your corner. I love you, son.